I just had a thought. When I typed that thing just then about Gomer Pyle, I am a bit of a Gomer Pyle. I often have thoughts, and they're never worth listening to. All right, now here's this thought. When you get the words to a script, like a Gomer Pyle show, or the words to a rock and roll song, for example, or the words to an opera, because I'm studying opera at the moment, by correspondence, no, by audiobook. Now, let's say that you wanted to faithfully pass on what you're hearing. You know, I remember, if I remember Gomer Pyle saying, surprise, surprise, surprise. You know, the way he used to say, surprise, surprise, surprise. You know, the way he used to say that. All right. Or what if I wanted, let's say I wanted to text what he was saying. Would I just write surprise, surprise, surprise? No. This is to somebody who doesn't even know the show. No, you'd have to add emojis or something, or change the words a little bit, or add some words. You can't just quote it. So to quote exactly what Gomer Pyle said verbatim would be to misquote him, I think. I have to defend this. Same goes for a rock and roll song. Bebobalula, she's my baby. Now, if I was just to text someone that, I'd be misquoting that song, because that phrase had a lot more, was saying a lot more than that. Because I'd have to say I'd have to go B with 4 E's, bop. I'd have to put little marks across the bop to make sure that people know that it was just a bop, not just a bop. I can't just text Bebobalula, because I'd be misquoting Gene Vincent. All right, now let's keep going with this just for a second. Okay, so I think look, I'm not right, but it's arguable. I could defend this, I reckon. How could I defend this? Because I was listening to something about opera yesterday. I'm up to Marriage of Figaro, Mozart and Duponti. Okay, now back in those days, massive cancel culture. Oh man, progressives, they whinge and they suck about cancel culture. Nobody does cancel culture like conservatives. I can leave it. Conservatives do it better. That needs to be a bumper sticker. Okay, now, because back then, in the age of cancel culture, with a capital C and a capital C, Duponti, for example, who was a bit of a ratbag scallywag, he was fantastic. I like him. He went into the seminary. He was a priest. Got kicked out. He was like perfect for Mozart, because Mozart was a bit of a ratbag too. Duponti was an even bigger ratbag. At least Mozart was fairly faithful to Costanza, if that was her name. Okay, but Duponti, he got kicked out of the seminary for having too many affairs, and then he wrote operas with I think 3, Don Giovanni and Marriage of Figaro and one other. Maybe it was Magic Flute, I can't remember. Actually, yes, I think it was. And then after Mozart died, I'll get back to my story in a second, as to why it's misquoting a song, for example, a song lyric, or something from a show like Gomer Pyle or The Godfather. I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. It needs to be said properly. I'll make you an offer. I can't even say it. I've got to put cotton balls in my mouth to speak like Marlon Brando. But okay, I'll get back to that. But Duponti, he was a scallywag. because after Mozart died, he got himself deep in debt in Venice, and this is what I heard yesterday. I'll get back to the other thing in a minute. And then he shot through to Vienna. And in Vienna, he got deeply in debt and ran away from his creditors again and ended up in London. In London, he got deeply in debt. I'm liking this guy already. And shot through to New York. In New York, he got deeply in debt yet again. Look, it just kept going and he kept running. But he had written the libretti for 3 of the great monuments of the Western world. But he was also a rat bag. Okay. But you can dine out on that stuff. No matter, look, as long as you do some genius in your life, you can have some really, really bad points. Yeah, you get away with it because the rest, he's a rat bag, but he did this. He ended up a professor, I think, in Columbia University in the US. So he managed to run away from his past quite well there, I think. He lived till he was 89, I believe. My God, like well into the 1800s. He would have outlived Beethoven, I suppose. He lived 50 years longer than Mozart. Okay, but anyway, back to what I was saying. Back in the days of real cancel culture, yeah, all right, progressives doing cancel culture, they annoy me too. Everyone annoys me. No, they don't. I actually don't mind cancel culture back then or now. It just makes things more interesting. I wouldn't be able to be telling this story if there was no such thing as cancel culture. You need it, because it makes the comedy better and it makes the stories better. If I was a comedian, I'd welcome cancel culture because it gives you more material. All these sooks, comedians who are sooks. Oh, cancel culture. If I try and tell a joke, I'm going to get cancelled. Oh, shut up, This gives you a chance to tell an even better joke. You can be even naughtier now. I don't get it, Comedians should welcome this stuff, as did Mozart and Duponti, because you had to submit your libretto to the censors. Now, the fact that you had to do that's cancel culture, because you could be shot if you just put on an opera without actually submitting your libretto to the censors. You had to do that before you even started writing the music. Okay, so that's cancel culture. That's what it looks like. Okay, I think we still got. We might have a version of that now, the other way, but both sides do it. The thing that shat progressives the most back then, the non-comedian progressives, the comedian progressives like Mozart and Duponti, they were fine with it. They thought this is great. I love cancel culture. They really worked it, By the time they finished with Marriage of Figaro, Napoleon said, "This is the revolution already in action." I think he was talking, in retrospect, He said, I can't believe these guys were writing this. This is the revolution. Before the French Revolution had even started, Anyway, so you had to submit your libretto. And then what happened was, Duponti, being Duponti, was poking fun at the nobility, hence Napoleon, the revolution before the revolution in art form. Okay, because the revolution was on long before the revolution came. It didn't come out of nowhere. It was happening. It was bubbling along. So they submitted it, and the censors took out a whole lot. Okay, they were expecting that. So, where they were really poking fun at the king, I took all that out, so slash, the big black line, all that sort of stuff, redacted. They redacted it, and then they said, there it is back, well, 80%, use the remaining 80%, we've struck 20% out, I don't know what the percentages were. Well, here's the thing. If you were going to quote the libretto to the Marriage of Figaro accurately, would you quote the version after, the one that was published, or the one before. Now, you haven't even got access to the one that was, that was before. Well, imagine you had access to the one that was before. Which one is more accurate as to, which libretto actually went out there and got published as an opera and got sung on stage, and all that sort of stuff. It was the one before that never. Oh, this is confusing, but work with me, because Mozart put all those words back in the opera in music. I've got to go. I could explain all that, What the censors took out, Mozart put back in with music.